Hey guys, welcome back to the Deeply Graphic Designcast. I'm Nick Longo, your host today. Have you ever felt like a project has just gone so off the rails? You got endless revisions, unclear direction, maybe the client is changing their mind all the time. You're not alone. What if that structure, though, and the processes you use actually fuel your creativity instead of stifling it? So today I'm joined by my buddy Paul Balfe. He is the managing director of Pennybridge. They're an incredible design studio based out of Australia. Check out their links below. Paul and his team have really specialized in turning creative chaos into clarity by using all of these smart processes as guardrails. They definitely help to keep the project on track, and they keep the client in line and making sure that this journey has a ton of confidence and they'll come back for more. We're diving into how you can use this structure to streamline your work, exceed client expectations, and ultimately create better, more strategic design. But before we jump right in, I want to make sure you are subscribing to the channel. Hit the like button. Yeah, I'm that guy now telling you to do it, but it definitely helps out our channel both on all the podcast channels and on YouTube. So, hope you guys enjoy this fantastic conversation with Paul Balfe from Pennybridge. Hope you enjoy it. Awesome, man. So, Paul, before we begin, tell us a little bit about you, and then we'll get into Pennybridge and talk a little bit about our topic.
Yeah, cool. I guess, yeah. So for those that don't know me, my name is Paul Balfe, founder of Pennybridge Creative. So my background was in, I guess came out of high school, started my own brand, loved like extreme sports. Then that led me into working in publishing. So I got to work with a really cool publishing house called Morrison Media, where we did like surf magazines, skate magazines, like all that kind of stuff. And that was awesome. And that was kind of my first foray into like advertising. So I got to do a bunch of the editorial bit, which I loved. But then I was also working with the brands on their advertising and what they were putting in the mag, and then working with their athletes and all that kind of stuff. So but that was where I fell in love with design. So we got to do, a lot of brands would come to us and say, I want to advertise, but I don't know what to advertise. And then I was coming up with like, I guess the full page ads or the double page ads for them. And then I, slowly started designing them myself. And that it kind of grew from there. And I started doing that class, and then I actually couldn't get a job. So that's where Pennybridge came in. I just started freelancing, and that was where it kind of started. And it's, 10 years later we are, that was it. So
wow. And you said you started it right after high school?
I started my own brand out of high school.
Damn, dude. That's great. I think that's a first from what anybody I've talked to. I love hearing that. Yeah, it's typically like we dabbled in it a little bit, did it with some friends or something, but to like see that it almost kind of sounds like everything you did was one step closer to where you're at now, right? Like quite an evolution.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely wasn't planned that way. It might, when I tell the story, it might seem like that.
Yeah.
But,
Yep.
Yeah, it was definitely a slow burn and definitely an evolution along the way. So, like, don't get me wrong, when I say I started my own brand, there was, like, it did all right, but, like, definitely a learning curve. But it gave me, like, insight into what brands, like, go through. And that then allowed me to be on the other side. And I think that's kind of helped throughout the entirety of my career, was like knowing what people need in a startup, what they need in an established business, all those kind of things. So, and it's always kind of allowed me to kind of empathize with businesses. So, Yeah,
you've gone through it, and it's almost like it doesn't matter what industry it is. A business is a business, and you having that under your, in your background is such a great thing to bring to a client who might be a little nervous, right? Like kind of uncharted territory in a lot of ways,
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, just as as I've worked with more and more businesses, that understanding only deepens. So especially when you've, like, I don't know how many listeners would have retainer clients, but like
Hmm.
I feel like that's a good way to kind of get even more knowledge into
Yeah.
different businesses and different facets of business. So, and really seeing what works for them and what doesn't. Yeah, that's huge. So, but I think that's probably a part of design that like not many people really um, speak about is like we're creative problem solvers. So like we're not just
Yeah.
doing um, like logos and branding and marketing materials and UX design just for the sake of it. It's like
Yeah.
you're ultimately trying to solve a business problem. So like, what is that? And then yeah, kind of going down that route and figuring out how you can solve it either with creativity or technology.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up, man. I bring that up in my class all the time because I feel like the students I have are seniors, college, moving into, just months away from joining that real world and searching for that first job. And I think a lot of times they don't realize that the problem solving, what you're doing for the potential client is so valuable in that way. And it's not just creating the thing that's going to do good on Instagram or wherever they post. It's all about, are you doing something to really solve that problem for the client at hand? And it's just one of those things I love that so many people are talking about more,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, definitely. I think that's the thing is like just listening to what the problem is. Like it's so easy to kind of have a client walk through the door and you sit there and you go, oh, I've wanted to do this kind of design forever.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
Yeah.
this is my opportunity. And then you're almost like a lot of like I've done this in the past. Don't get me wrong. Like you kind of push them down that route because like
Sure.
it's what you want to do. Whereas now, like our entire approach is like we'll do whatever the business needs. So like, and making sure that the client is aligned with that too. So like, it's very much a journey together and a collaboration together, as opposed to like, give us a problem and then we'll come back with a solution. It's like it doesn't
Yeah.
work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Those days are gone. It seems like the ad agency that like, goes away for a while, comes back and reveals the work. You want to go
Yeah,
hand in hand with the client. You want them to feel that they've had some part in it in a lot of ways.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, which I personally think has been like, because we've changed our approach to that, that's probably been um, the best thing for us in the sense that like people people in business are taking a lot of risk. So like if you can hold their hand through the process and like
Yeah.
help them understand what it is that they need, um, or like even help them understand like this as a process in of itself of like what does branding do, what does it need to do, what does your website need to do, all those kind of different things, and then like they've got a better grasp and understanding of their own business
Yeah.
throughout it, and then they feel like they've got ownership of it too. So, which I think is the biggest thing. Like if you've got a business, like you want to be proud of it, you want to be confident with it, you want to have that sense of ownership on it. So, um, yeah, like it's huge.
I agree, man. What in what way does Pennybridge define chaos? Because that's what we're going to talk a little bit about here. But I love when you said this, like chaos to clarity. I was like, bingo, that's what we're talking about. But
Yeah.
how do you define it? What's chaos for you guys?
I guess like because I was talking before about how when I started out, like I never had a conventional job, so I didn't know what I didn't know. Um,
Yeah,
like a lot of freelancers might not. So um, you don't have these like processes to follow. You're kind of just winging it half the time. So a lot of the time, if a client comes to you, like they're giving you a verbal brief, like this is the problem or this is what I want, blah, blah, blah. It's either verbal or it's written, whereas we live in like a visual language. So
yeah,
then converting what they're trying to say into something that's visual, there's always going to be a disconnect. Um, so trying to get that alignment on like what they're trying to achieve and what their outcomes are and building that strategy for them. And then if you're not getting the brief you need, almost retrofitting the brief and sending it back and going, hey, we've spoken about all this, like just confirming like these are the things that we need to go through. These are the objectives that you want, and these are the outcomes that are going to follow. And they're like, yeah, cool. And then you're like, all right, sweet. We're on the same page with that. What does that mean visually now? So when you said you wanted a dog in the logo, do you want like a golden retriever or do you want like a German shepherd? Do you know what I mean? Like it can be something that simple where it's like you're both saying the exact same thing, but like the meaning behind it's totally different. So like, for example, we're doing a strategy for like the Gold Coast, which is where we live at the moment. And one of the words that they picked as a branding word was irreverent. And I'm like,
ooh,
we don't want to be irreverent. What do you mean? And their perception of what that meant versus what our perception of that was completely different. So like if you're leading with that, it's kind of like you got to pull that up and go, hey, like I understand the context of what you meant, but if we were to put that into the brand, this is what it might mean. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Let's pull that back. So, long story short, it's kind of like just getting a really good. Sorry, I didn't actually answer your question. I kind of skipped above, but like chaos is like
okay.
chaos to me now.
Define it first, right?
Define it first, yeah. Chaos to me is like not having a process and kind of just jumping into stuff, like the whole fuck around and find out thing. Which don't get me wrong, like it's still necessary in some way, shape, or form, but like just doing that from the beginning, from start to end, and then hoping that you're going to get a good outcome almost never works.
That's great,
especially when you're managing a team. So,
it almost is like you nailed it with interpretation of that word that was on a brief. Misinterpretation is one of the first spots I notice where chaos can start, like those signs of things going off the rails, right? And so like when you get to that point, are you now proactively knowing those words that could be the trigger and then saying, give the visual or the secondary question now before we move any further?
Yeah, for sure. So I think in our industry, a lot of the time people get led, like allow themselves to be led by the client in the sense that like the client wants this, I'm just going to execute on that. But it's kind of going back that step and going, hey, like if we execute on that, this might be the outcome. Just having like more regular checkpoints and check-ins of like, I guess like not just getting a brief and disappearing for a month or two at a time and then coming back and then not understanding why they don't love it. So it's like, cool. When you said irreverent, this is what that means visually, and giving them a mood board for that, or like, that's kind of what we mean. So, so then you're kind of like negating any long-term issues that make you have to go like from doing all the work all the way back to the start and kind of repeating the process. Because I don't think anyone wants that. And since we've kind of changed how we do things and we're kind of a lot more collaborative, it's, we've seen a huge, I guess, change in our business where one, we're getting sign-offs a lot quicker. And then two, we're actually like when we talk to people about how we do things, it's almost like they've seen our work and they're like, yeah, your work's cool and that's why we inquired. But like when you take them through the process and walk them through how you do things, that's the thing that makes them want to work with you. And you're like, oh, cool. Like that's almost more important than like the work itself. Cause like, obviously people love the visuals, but if they can see that you can,
I totally agree, dude. There's so many times where, and it even might be the right interpretation of the copy and the message of the creative is so good and so strong that the art and the design part of it follow, and it gives them that sense of like, I'm with the right partner, and I love that feeling as well when a client gives you that same thing. You also brought up a great little point about leading the client. Do you remember a time where you might have like purposely shifted to be more of the expert in the relationship with specifically a new client that you're onboarding? Because I think so many young designers and maybe some of our listeners struggle with that. Like, and it took me a long time to get to that point too. And once I changed that kind of mind shift, wow, it was a huge difference with, like you said, faster sign-offs and all those things. When did you make a conscious effort to do that, and what steps did you take to lead and not let their brief kind of be the guiding point?
Yeah, it was probably 18 months to 2 years ago. I think we kind of sat down and went, what is and isn't working, and how do we, as our team is growing, we couldn't be as slapstick as what we were prior. So like, it
always happens, right? We're trying to be this professional. We get new people, right? I love the way you said that the slapstick thing just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. Well, when you're trying to, like, every project that's coming through the door, you're doing it differently. It was like, how do we do this? Like, what are we doing? So we kind of sat down and like almost like mapped out how a particular, like, and we've done this with different services. So like we've mapped out what our process looks like for branding. We've mapped out what our process looks like for websites, even murals, like the whole box and dice. And they're all so different, right? They're all their own niches.
They're different animals.
Yeah. Even if you're doing all those three things for the same client, it's like, this is the process for this, this, and this.
Wow.
And when like they can work in swim lanes. But ultimately, like when one stops, the other one can start, and vice versa. And here's how they all plug in. So like we kind of had to do that because we were facing those challenges of like we were getting led by the client, and like in the last 18 months, 2 years since we've made that change, the only projects that have fallen apart are the ones that we do kind of take the step back and be led. And that's happened to us twice just recently. And it's like that reinforcement of like, all right, if we had have stepped in and led this project the way that we usually do, instead of being led by the client, the outcome would have been different. So, and sometimes that's not your fault. Sometimes clients want to skip processes, and they've got a big name attached to them, and you're like, I want this project, so let's skip that. Don't worry about that. You know what you're doing, and then all of a sudden, like, chaos ensues. So,
right, In fact, those are the ones you probably have to even be more in charge and leading, because you're right. Like, I think sometimes your perception is if they're a bigger player than anybody else you've had, you think they've been doing something right. I got to lead with them, but it doesn't put you in such a it's like you put you in the driver's seat when you show that early on. Particularly, like, I love how you said you have different processes for different deliverables, and I think that's one area maybe a lot of us use the same process every single time. Like, going from the branding to a website to a mural, totally different things, right?
Yeah.
That's great, dude. That's really an awesome idea. Let's go back to like maybe branding. What do you do the most of, you would say? Is it the brand development, website, or something else?
It's kind of hard to say. Like, I think we do probably just as many websites as we do brands, but we probably showcase more brands than anything.
Brands.
Yeah.
I think everyone's guilty of that, right?
Yeah. It's so easy to share, whereas like, website and stuff and UX stuff's like super hard to kind of get into the nitty gritty.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, just recently we were kind of like, why are websites at the moment taking so long? Why are they like dragging out so much? And it was just like our process, or we weren't leading the client properly. So we were to a point, but then in some instances, like, oh yeah, just get us your content when you're ready. and then they give it to you in drips and drabs and expect updates and all that kind of stuff. Whereas like, if you can kind of go, hey, like this is the check-in point of when we need everything done by, and you won't get any update until X, all those kind of things, like just trying to be a little bit more enforceable of what the timeline looks like. And if they're not responsible for their end, then the timeline's going to blow out. But I think our most refined process, which I've spoken a lot about in the past, is our branding process. And I'd honestly say one of the biggest changes for us was Chris Doe's Stylescapes. I'd seen bits and pieces about it, and I was like, oh yeah, cool, like it's a mood board, whatever. But then when we actually started using that properly, it was like that visual alignment. So instead of like, some studios will do multiple concepts off the brief, whereas now we're like, get the brief, have a discovery session off that, and just make sure we're super clear on that, and then go into the Stylescape session next. And that's kind of like almost where we present the 3 different concepts or 4 different concepts, and it's
gotcha.
But it's all like just refined mood boards. Like this is what it could look like. This is what it could be. This is what the color palette might like. It could be the same thing, but 2 different color palettes and everything. But it looks really unified, and it gives the client that like objective view of what they're going to get, and they're like, all right, cool. Like I like option 2. Let's go with that direction. So like everyone knows what the expectations are. So they're like, cool, like they know what to expect. And then obviously you go and 10x that and make it look awesome and like add motion and, really go nuts with the brand presentation. And 9 times out of 10, like it's a sign off straight away. And you're like,
that's
cool.
Great. How many concepts? How many concepts?
1.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
I'm down to 2, bro. I'm so envious of you. Like I'm trying, this current project, we just inked on the mood board, the stylescape, whatever you want to call it. And I'm feeling that confident because I think you can't just hope for this to happen. You do have to set up the right process to get to that expectation. And I think this is the first one that it's going to be the one and done. And I've just been waiting for that forever, It's the best clarity. It really is. And then it also comes to the idea that if you've done all that work prior and that mood board is signed off on and it has enough on there to interpret the style the way they want it and you want it as the expert, there's probably only one pretty good solution that's going to be all they need. 2 will just confuse them.
Well, I think that was probably one of the things we were trying to fix is when you've got multiple concepts, like there's always bits and pieces from them that you go, oh, that's nice and that's nice. And then all of a sudden it's like, can we just get all that and kind of massage them together and create this Frankenstein? And it's like, they're different concepts for a reason, right? Or if they do pick one, it's generally the one that you hate. So, sorry.
No worries, man.
So it's one of those things where you're like, you've invested more time into one than the other, and more often than not, they go with the one that you're like, I just threw that one together.
Wow, so true, dude. I'll report back to you when I find out how this one goes, but I'm so excited because it's the first one there's a confidence that comes with it too. You're just not. It's not like you're just sitting here going like, I'm going to throw you out and hope this is the one that you gravitate to. I've led them to want this to be the one, in everything you do. How do you get clients to actually follow your process now that you feel like it's strong enough? Those little signs of derailment will probably come in certain areas. Maybe let's call it a new client. And I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm finding a lot of new clients, it's their first time ever being in business. There's a lot of young companies coming to us for the first time. So how do you keep them from derailing if those little moments come up where they're like, can we see another this or whatever? And you're like, where did we go wrong? How do you keep them from doing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. Um, I think one of the biggest things is like probably over delivering in in the pitch. So
Okay.
what I mean by that is like um, you know when we have the brand presentation, we go back through like all the discovery notes where you want the
Yes.
brand to be X, Y, and Z, like whether that's like bold and energetic, and and then we determined that like this was the direction, and then you show the stylescape, and they're like, "Yep, cool, we all agreed on that," and then you run them into, "All right, here's the brand," and we probably go, well, we definitely go. I'm not going to lie here. We go overboard. Um, where we'll pretty much get the entire brand presentation and turn it into like a mini video with like a bit
Wow.
of motion in between and music. So then like they're getting this visual impact of what it is, not just from a visual point of view, but also from a, like audio and movement. And then all of a sudden they're just like they're so like, whoa, like this is what I
Wow.
can do. That and then then comes the branding piece, and you step them through why you've done it, and then kind of all the extra deliverables, and just kind of adding those like extra little moments that they probably you wouldn't get if you were just sending them a PDF and going, "Hey, what do you like?" Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then I think probably the biggest key for us is always making sure that we present. There's never
Yeah.
sending it like the old send and hope. Yeah, that's I don't I don't know. Like it's kind of one of those things. Like um, I feel like I've been in that boat before, where you get asked for little bits and pieces. Like don't get me wrong, we'll do little changes here or there, but generally the direction or the concept stays the same. It's just like, oh, I really like this color more than that. Can we just tweak the colors? And it's like, yeah, cool. Or like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's always small. Like there might be a small tweak here or there, but generally overall it's pretty good. But yeah. So to answer your question, just over deliver. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, is kind of like if you say you're going to do like you know a brand like suite, give them maybe like if you've done a little illustration that you think works, like add it in there somewhere, or like turn it into
Yeah.
a pattern, or just something, or like show it to them visually exactly how it's gonna probably that's the biggest thing for us is like if if someone walks in and they're new, you're like, all right, what's the first touch point that where is your brand going to be seen first? And
Yeah.
it's
In
like,
order.
oh
Like in order of experience, right?
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
like if they're opening a shop front, this is what your shop front could look like. This is what your merch could look like. This is what your website even might look like. So even if we're doing a branding project, we might whip up like a quick homepage, and then it's like all of a sudden they're like, I do need a website, and you're like, yes, you do need a website. Let's go.
I did that
It's
on purpose.
yeah.
You're
So
right.
it's just one of those things of like trying to make sure that you're facilitating like where that brand's going to be seen, and have thought about everything, as opposed to just giving them like flat brand elements and going good luck.
Yeah.
So
And you set them up for success in so many different ways because it's like the more and more you can show the brand in real life, like as a almost ready to go, like, it's almost ready to literally like lift off. That to
yeah,
me is where they start understanding the process more. They've been a part of it, and what you're showing them is answering the solution. Like going back to the very beginning of the conversation, what solution are you giving them? And you give it to them. Like at that point, one of my biggest like little hiccups, and maybe you have a good solution for this, is the personal preference of the stakeholder always finds its way in around that time, and you're like, we're just about to lock it up.
yeah,
What happens there? How do you get them back on track if they start throwing in personal preference? Like, I really just never liked green, and you're like, come on,
yeah,
what do you do?
yeah. I think that's what that's what we kind of go over in the discovery phase a lot. Is like, are there any colors that you just don't like?
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, someone might be like, I hate red. And you're like, well, based on everything you've said and all the branding words, like red is actually probably what we should be using. So what would like, based on all those words, what color do you think of? So like and then you start to massage that because you are showing yourself as an expert by introducing color theory and talking about color theory early on. But also asking them what their personal preferences are. So like, there's even been instances where we're like, send us a mood board of stuff that you hate. So like if you're in a particular industry, like if you've got a mood board of stuff that you like and then a mood board of stuff that you hate, sometimes they can be relatively close. And you're like, that's
Yeah.
very similar to that. What is it that you don't like? And it might just be like, oh, the color or the font or whatever it might be. So, yeah, I feel like the discovery session is really good for that and just kind of really trying to weed out any personal preferences prior. Because, like, and don't get me wrong, like, there's still times when it's like, you guys are the experts, you know what you're doing, just I trust you, go for it. And then you do it, and it's like,
And then that hand goes up.
yeah, and you're like, oh, okay.
Here we go. Someone
Yeah,
from accounting doesn't like orange.
yeah,
You're like, oh, we're in trouble now.
yeah.
What about when you're at that point and you're describing maybe in the onboarding and they're maybe looking at this and going, whoa, there's a lot of steps to your process here. Do you ever have to like communicate the value of these things? And if so, like how do you bring up past projects or where the process has shined? Like how do you get them over that hump? Because I do get that sometimes too, right? They're like, they might get a little intimidated and like, why are there so many steps?
Yeah, I break it down and just go, look, it's a four step process.
Yeah.
Um, and generally it's going to take like between 3 or 4 hours of your time
Yeah.
over the space of X amount of weeks. But what what that means is like you're going to have input and you're going to collaborate on this. It's not like kind of what we were saying before. It's not like we're going to disappear and then come back to you and
Yeah.
then because like the biggest question is like, what if I don't like it? And I'm like, well, you're going to be a part of the process the whole way. So if we get to the
Good.
end and you don't like it, then like it's both of our faults because we haven't we could have figured that out
Good.
along the process
Great
if that
answer,
makes
dude.
sense. So
You're
it's like
sharing the responsibility.
exactly. So because and
Yeah.
that's the thing, right? Like your your success, oh sorry, their success is your success. So if that business goes on to do well, then like they're going to come back to you.
Yeah.
So it's in your best interest to like be collaborative with them and guide them through that and kind of just like yeah, uh, it's it sounds so simple even when I'm saying it, and I'm like, but I know how hard it is because I do it every single day, and like you've
Yeah.
got different people's opinions come into it, like you were saying, Jenny from accounting, but like that's another thing is like, all right, who are the stakeholders that are going to have a say in this and get them in early and get their buy-in. So like, it's that's the biggest thing is getting buy-in and getting like a almost like a unified thing where you're like, hey, I'm in this business with you. Like, let's get this right and like let's do all the stuff. I know it's going to take 3 hours of your time, and you might not have 3 hours. Like the only time I've in the last year and a half that we've had an issue is when like stakeholders aren't engaged and they don't
Yeah.
want to be part of it. And then all of a sudden they're at
Yeah.
the end and they're like, I don't like it. And you're like, well, you weren't part of the process. So this is what everything we've gone through. And if, yeah, so that's probably the biggest thing is just getting them in early, getting the buy-in and just like, I don't know, just like trying to get people to understand that you're on their side.
I think, yeah, you explained it great, dude, because so many times people think it's like, I've heard a lot of other people saying, like, oh, it's all about covering your ass. And that's not the best thing to, that's not a good mentality to go into it with. And it's also something you would never say to onboarding a new client. I love how you said it, where it's like, your success is our success. And those little moments could, I think, really make them feel more confident when you say it's going to be that one concept. Because I've had that question asked a lot of times. What if I don't like it?
Yeah.
And I guess it's like once you've gone through it enough, you start to know the answers because you've made those tweaks with your process probably with every new client, right? It's ever changing, I'm assuming, right? You probably look at it each time and go, how can I make it better?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like looking for those little um, traits of success and like going, yep, cool. And then what can we fine tune? Um,
Traits of success and triggers of failure. It's like, you know
yeah.
what I mean? Because both go hand in hand. You want to look for the good things, what worked, but you also want to look for those areas where major chaos happened because, and I'll be the first to say, it's like, it was my fault. I'm running this thing. I will never blame the client first, right? I always like to say, what did I do wrong? And how can I improve it for the next one? You know?
Yeah.
That's awesome. We've got a lot of like designer folks that are probably smaller agencies. A lot of our listeners too are juggling, the 9 to 5 and trying to ignite a really great side business that could hopefully be their bread and butter. If they're struggling with the chaotic projects, what's the first thing they should fix? What would you, if you were the doctor, what would you prescribe?
Oh, it's a great question. I've been in all those situations. Um, I guess it's like the best thing I can say is I know I probably sound like an old record in saying this, but like just try and create like a process even just for yourself to follow and
Mm-hmm.
um, see what works. And if it doesn't work, like just use every project or every bit of work that you do get as almost like a test to see what has worked, what hasn't. Even to the extent of like what kind of people you enjoy working with and who you don't like working with. Um, that's how I generally find people find their niches of like, I really like working with this sector because it generally includes these kind of people, and that's um, how like they're the kind of people that I like working with. So like even from that point of view, um, yeah, I would. I'm going to go on a really long-winded answer here in the sense of do that first as a stepping stone, and then secondly, like this is going to get into like a little bit of psychology, but like start to understand different personality traits. So like this different disc profiles and like different personalities. Because when you're working with clients, um, your measure of success might be determined by their personality too. So even that goes down into sales. So like if you're selling and someone's like actively looking for pricing from different studios,
Mm-hmm.
how can you stand out and deliver value for them? Then someone else that's like a little bit more emotionally driven, that like they just want someone that's going to hold their hand the whole way, or someone that really just wants like really really cool work. Um, how do you showcase that value to all those different people because they're buying for 3 to 4 different reasons, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that would be the thing because they're once you figure that out, they're the things that are going to allow you to step out on your own and abandon your 9 to 5 and confidently go, all right, cool. If I get a inquiry through the door, I know how to handle this particular client or that
Yeah.
particular client, and I know what kind of people I want to work with. So like I can determine those red flags earlier than later, instead of going down, working so hard to get a project, getting all the way down the line, and then they become a difficult client to work with, and you're like, oh, should I
Yeah.
have done this project at all? Um, but yeah, I would just like, I mean, it's one of those things too, like everything takes time. It's taken me 10, 11 years to get here. And I didn't figure this out overnight. So it's taken
Great
that
point.
whole time to like get to one concept. And, you know, it probably still takes the same amount of time to deliver the project we're but we're just spending more time at the start, instead of and maybe less time creating. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's working smarter, not harder, because we definitely still work hard.
Yeah.
But
It's learning from the past too, right? It's like
yeah,
streamlining from points where the struggle happened, and now you can identify how to eliminate that from the next one.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, or enhance, like whatever it might be.
yeah, definitely. Because like I know creatives hate guardrails. Like, we want all the freedom to do all the things, but like I feel like guardrails and like restrictions are the things that allow you to really like prosper. Like if someone's going, hey, this is what you need to fit in, and you're like, oh, okay, like, you've got to figure that out. And then sometimes you can break outside of them and you're like, you can explain why. But that's probably one of the things that I think, like, early on for me anyway, in that regard, it was like always like, oh, can I just do this? Because I really want to just do this. And it's like, no, these are the guardrails. So yeah, trying to understand how to work within those, and then actually realizing that they're generally the things that make a successful project.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm articulating that properly, but
No, it's perfect, dude. Yeah.
yeah,
You're giving me a lot of things to think about too, because it's like I think you're never done. You continue to learn. I love the fact that our industry and folks that particularly I get to talk to and I listen to on other podcasts or whatever share with such transparency a lot of this stuff, because I think there's plenty of work out there. It's like, and we could talk, we can meet, and we're in different parts of the world. So it's like, why not have these conversations, particularly for those folks that are maybe next in line, like who's the next one,
yeah,
and not that we can fast track it to the point where they will eliminate all the mistakes, but it's just about giving them some guiding kind of like principle to say like, here's what you need to do for your own thing. And like no formula will work for any two people. It's got to be your own. Like you said, you found these ways through the years and years of working with clients, and yeah, no one told us we'd be therapists too, right? Like,
yeah,
like you said, like you could tell the person the minute you meet them who you've got to be the good creative partner for them as well.
yeah,
It's it's part of the game.
yeah.
I
And
didn't sign up for this, Paul.
me neither. Me neither. It's being a creative is definitely an emotional roller coaster. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think you're the therapist for clients and you're the therapist for yourself sometimes. But yeah, I mean, that's it. I find that super interesting in the sense that, like, even with your team too, and that's where we kind of got a really good it's funny. I got a good understanding of those, understanding personality traits through trying to build my team, and
Sure.
like understanding that I wasn't a very good leader or a very good manager at the start. If you speak to my team, they'll probably say that I'm still not, but trying to get an understanding of like where friction points come in and why certain people do certain things. And then once I got a good understanding of that, one of my designers was actually like, he actually came from agency land, and he was a big help in introducing process. But he was the one that was like, why don't you use this profiles for clients? Like when someone walks in the door, like just put them in their quadrant and then you'll understand of how to speak to them. And I'm like, it makes so much sense. Like,
Yeah.
If someone's like, highly supportive or like, very direct, like they just want pricing and they just want you to do the job, just do that. Like, you don't have to go on with all the additional fluff, I guess, that sometimes you have to for other personality traits. So, yeah, it's a super interesting one. And it's not for everyone either. Like I'd only, advise people to do that if they're having to manage their own accounts. So like if they are a freelancer, or you're moving into an account management role or account director role, or like even creative directors, like trying to understand what the client wants. Just knowing like the way that they're saying things and what they're trying to achieve, and like grasping that and then being able to translate it. It's super powerful. So
Yeah. It's all different disciplines too, right? And then so many of us, particularly the ones that are just starting, are wearing every one of those hats. And
yeah,
but that's how you learn, man. That's how you learn. Because now if you get to just concentrate on one part of that, and you got others that are part of your team now, you understand everybody's ebbs and flows, right? Wins and losses. It's so good, and I think it makes it more worthwhile.
yeah,
Totally
for sure.
great, man. Awesome, bro. Well, I'm gonna let you go. We got different time zones here, but you're ready to go. Dude, tell everybody where they can find more about Pennybridge. Go ahead and give it a shout out.
Yeah, cool. You can find us on Instagram at pennybridge.studio, LinkedIn at Pennybridge Creative, and Facebook, I think, at Pennybridge Creative too.
You're like, we got them all.
We've got them all, but definitely go check out our website, www.pennybridge.com.au. Hopefully we'll have a new one coming in like
Oh, damn, dude.
soon, but I'm going to say like
Good.
6 months. And when I say that, it'll probably be 2 years, but soon.
I've got three in progress ones that will probably never see the light of the day. It's just
classic.
It's the worst, man. Any travels coming up? Are you doing any of the conferences? Or I know you guys got a few of you came out to Crop last year, right?
Yeah. Oh man, I would love nothing more than to be at Crop again this year. That is
right.
the most awesome community.
I just recruited 2 more people today. I can't say enough, dude. We're lucky that it's close by. Matt and his wife just put on such a great thing, dude. They're the best, and you're right. It is the one. I love it.
Yeah. I'm itching to get over there, but unfortunately the Australian dollar's pretty average at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, but we'll be.
You're in
hanging
Australia?
Out. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
How to give you that one?
Yeah. I hope if the accent didn't give it away, that's
No.
Yeah.
I thought you guys were in Austin.
Man, I love that place. Hey, it's such a cool
Isn't
spot,
it?
man.
Isn't it? It's great.
Yeah,
I know.
wish I got longer over there, and a massive shout out to Matt. Like, he's built an amazing community around that conference, and all the people that go there are just awesome.
There's a like-mindedness, but there's also like such a great variety too. It's the best. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like a humbleness about it, right? Like you can be
Yeah.
a beginner, or you can be like
Top of the game.
and it feels like everyone is there just to like have fun and like kind of bring each other up. Like a lot of the connections that we got at Crop last year, man, I value them so highly. Got this at Crop and I'm rocking it today. Big shout out to Josh and young Brian and the team. But yeah, man, we'll be out again soon. Hopefully see some other conferences in time too. So
I mentioned to a few friends we were gonna chat. Do you know Tyler Pate?
Yeah, Tyler's a legend, man. I love Tyler.
Yeah, he's great, dude. Had some beers with him the other night, and we were chatting, and he's like, "Oh my god!" He goes, "I had such a great time meeting them at Crop and everything." It's like that's again, it's like the most common thing I hear now is that availability of just meeting every single person that goes there. That's what we live for now.
He's like the perfect example of someone that just never stops learning. So we met him when he came to our mural workshop.
Yeah.
And I was like, he was just walking past and he had like a screensaver on his phone. And I was like, "Is that your work?" And he's like, "Oh yeah." And I'm like, "Man, that's epic." And he's like, oh,
Yeah.
thanks. And then Jordan, who was with us, is our senior designer. He's like, I've seen that before.
I
And
know
he's like,
I know your Instagram handle.
yeah. And he's just like, I've been following you for like 5 years. And then all of a sudden it was
Oh,
just like this
that's
big
so
thing.
awesome.
And he was like, we pretty much had beers every night for like, I don't know, however many nights. And he ended up being like one of our best friends. And I'm like,
That's so
this is
great.
so rad. And yeah, we still chat pretty regularly. So I'm stoked for that.
Isn't that great, dude? That's where it
Yeah.
happens, man. And it's I'm so proud to be a part of an industry that's that's like that. My accounting friends don't have these stories. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
right.
All right,
Yeah.
man. Well, thanks again, dude. And so glad we were able to connect via all this and through crop days and whatever. But hopefully we'll get another chance down the road soon. But I really appreciate you joining in and making this happen, bud.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And if
You got
anyone wants any more knowledge, yeah, we're always open. We're always free. So yeah, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks.
Cheers, mate.
Designcast. Tune in.